If we want to talk about communication, we need to talk about the organization first. And when I say organization in context, I mean the family as a system is an organization. I mean the classroom as a class teacher, you and your student becomes an organization. I mean your department, your institutional department is an organization on its own. The organization itself, the District Directorate of Education, is also an organization on its own. Our colleagues who work with the fashion industry, you, your company, and the people that work with you, including your stakeholders, is an organization in that context. And my colleague, who says he's a development person, at the same time, an agriculturalist, in the agri office or wherever you work, it becomes an organization. So an organization is just a particular place where systems, please note, systems and people interact. And all that they do is aiming at achieving something. Every organization has a purpose. It has reasons why it existed. So this implies that in every organization, there are complex human beings. Human beings are naturally very complex. So in every organization you matter how very cool, very sober the person is, it is because you have not triggered the person certain things. If you trigger the person, you will see the other side of the person. So every human being is a very complex being. So you need to be aware wherever you work. Even your students are very complex. So you need to be aware, you need to observe. When we say organization in the system, we mean the sub activities that you do, subgroupings. They become a system. The units within the organization, departments, they are also subsystems within the system. And the groups, the various groups, they are systems. So if you notice recently, you see a lot of different trade unions and labor unions communicating. What is the reason why they are communicating? So they want their voice to be heard. And they are doing it in different ways. So those are groupings. So those groupings must be recognized because they are connected to systems. And the system must recognize that they are part of the larger system. So take note of that. Organization uses technology. So in the current dispensation, you will always need to use technology to be effective. So effectiveness is one of the hallmarks, one of the aims of organization. Every organization, every institution, effectiveness is one of the best ways they strive to be. And lastly, every organization must learn from each other. The various units, subsystems, must interact with each other, must learn from each other, because each unit or department has certain experiences that can be fertilized to the other units. So experiential learning must be harnessed in every organization. So in a nutshell, organizational behavior is the study of human behavior in organizational setting, as I already explained. The interface between human behavior and organizational context. Context is within what they do, within their environment, within their internal system. And the organizational itself. The organization itself is the framework all the system within the organization. So when you pick every organization, note that there are three philosophical underpinnings that you need to be aware. Every organization has that kind of psychological perspective, how they are happy or how they are sad, how they are motivated, or how they are agitated. Sociological factors is how socially they do things. Their social connections are very important in every organization. If you are an organization and you are not socially connected, you are not creating the enabling environment for others to feel socially acceptable, then going to be recognized by other stakeholders. So every organization must do something for others to see their presence in society. And some of the examples are corporate social responsibility. You see that MTN has been doing a lot of boreholes. They do what they call the game changers. They do a lot of school building and they will paint their colors on the school. Those are the sociological factors that they want people to see them and recognize them so that when they are talking to them, they will listen attentively because they already know the good work they are doing elsewhere. Environmental factors in every organization behave with the environment. When I say environment, I mean the rules and regulations that are governing organizations, internally and externally. Government set up regulations, and organization must abide by those regulations. So for you to relate well with the outsider and for you to appeal to people, for people to hear you, to take your message, you must be aware of the rules and regulations within the organization. So in a nutshell, organization behavior simply means the study of human behavior in an organizational setting, the interface between human behavior and the organizational context. And all those things are done within the organization as a system. So, diagrammatically, everything that I've said is summarized in this diagram, and I'm going to take them one by one. And so you may want to take some notes as I demonstrate through the whole circle, starting from the top. As I mentioned, every organization is governed by rules and regulations, constitution, policies, best practices, national laws, local laws. All those things are systems that are put in place for the leaders in the organization to recognize that whatever they are doing, they are not in the isolation. They are part of the larger system. So please take note of that. It's very, very important. Very, very important. Very, very, very important for you to know this. Now, when you know this, then what it means is that every organization will need resources to be able to relate well within and outside the organization. So that organization will need the required and proper human resource, or if they are not proper, they must be hired and trained. They need resources to communicate. They need resources for production or services. They need raw materials. They need other information. For example, communication policy. All those things are things that every organization will need to be able to provide a certain service. So whatever services that you are producing, You always need the raw materials, information, the human resource, the financial resource, the technical resource. Every organization will need that. And when you get those things in recognition of the environment of which you find yourself, you put that into processes. So, for example, human beings in the organization, you have the communication department. The communication department will create a communication policy on how you need to communicate to the internal system and the external environment, to your stakeholders. And once you have communication policy and you have the needed resources to be able to discharge your duty as the communication person, you will get an output. The output will be that the work environment or the system will be agile, will be responsive, will be will be producing results. So in the process of doing all this, you need to listen to people. So you need to do surveys to understand what people are thinking about your services. If you are a teacher, your lesson notes, your delivery, you need to listen and ask the students to tell you what they feel about your delivery and how you can improve it. So you need, for every step, you need feedback to be able to reprocess and enhance the services that you are offering. Whether you are a leader, you need that. You are a manager, you need that. You are a journalist, you need that. You are a managing director of your company, you need that. You are a fashion designer, you need feedback to be able to produce more designs and more systems. Everybody needs a feedback. Once you provide services, you always need feedback to be able to do more and enhance your services. So this is an organizational behavior framework or a model that shows you the system components of an organization. You need this so that you will be able to communicate effectively. You need this so that you can understand better why organizations behave that way. You need this to understand how to deal with complex systems outside your organization. You need this to be able to research. You need this to be able to understand how to develop strategies to improve on your effectiveness. So, what are the implications of a workplace communication? Very, very critical. There are three reasons why you must develop a workplace communication peacefully. The first one is relationship building. Every organization must try to continuously building relationship among themselves, the departmentals, and stakeholders outside. Otherwise, there will be conflict all the time. Even though conflict is inevitable, but it must not be to the extreme. So every organization needs to continuously develop a relationship within the system and outside the system. Two, every organization must develop a strategy. Of course, a communication strategy, and keep implementing it. Communication strategy must be continuous. It must be reviewed all the time, especially when there are political changes, especially when there are leadership changes, especially when there are departmental reshuffles, especially when new products are in the system. Let me give you typical examples. All teachers know that the Ghana curriculum has been changed, and therefore the content is different, the strategy to deliver it is different, and government policies are redirecting in a different way. So you need to be aware, otherwise you will be a teacher, but you will not be responsive to government attitude towards business policies. There has been a lot of changes because of the economic situation. So if you are a business person, you are an entrepreneur, you are a development person, you must also change your strategy. Otherwise, you become irrelevant. So you need to communicate using different strategies within different contexts. The third one is you need to provide reward systems in every organization. When you are communicating within an organization, there must be incentives. For example, if you don't have a workplace WhatsApp platform, when you know that today WhatsApp platforms are much more live, almost everybody in a workplace has a smartphone and everybody communicates on WhatsApp. So it is just important that you have a Wi-Fi system in your workplace so that when people are in the office, they are all motivated to connect to the workplace Wi-Fi so they can make some savings. So it's a reward system. It's a motivational package you are rolling out. So if you want people to behave well in our organization, you need to provide a system, a support system, a reward system. You need to provide motivational packages so that the organization can be much more responsive and more agile in terms of communication and workplace development. So I'm giving you 3 best practices. Keys in communicating effectively. No matter the type of message you want to deliver, you must still do a bit of appraisal, assessment, rapid assessment, or it can be a survey. You need to have data and generate knowledge and know who is receiving the message. There could be multiples of people, but you need to understand for each group what do they need, how do they receive the message, through which means data and knowledge is very important. Knowledge of the target group is very important. So if you don't do this, your message can be as beautiful, as short, but you will not be able to make the impact. And I'm going to show you very soon a diagram that you will be marveled. Feedback is very important in communication. You need to have a listening ear. You need to have the feelings of the people in the workplace. Your stakeholders, you must have feelings. That's why before I started the session, I asked you, when was the time you were communicated effectively? Very powerful communication. And you all share with me one of the best communicator that communicate back in communication. You always need the feelings of people. You need the best practices of people. You need to scan around to know what people are talking about and what kind of message they need so that you will be able to deliver it. You are going to see it more for this year, which is a political year. You are going to see a lot of politicians doing a lot of collecting data and using the feedback principles to relay the information back. That's why you see politicians moving to various communities, listening to people. They are collecting data. They are taking feedback from the people. So it is very important as a leader to always get feedback so that you can communicate back effectively. The third one is social capital. There's something every organization must do. There's something every leader must do. There's something every group must do. Social connecting. Social network. You need to do good in society so that when you are communicating, you'll be respected. So that's why you need to dress well as a leader. You must not dress anyhow. That's why you must have a good name. You must work for it. You must live in a life of integrity. You must be somebody who will be, whose words will be taken seriously. And those are social capitals that you have built over the years. So every organization must build a social capital connection. When there's a situation, instead of you communicating, you can use other people to communicate the same message, and it will be well understood than you communicating. So these are the three best practices if you want to communicate effectively. Data is very important. Feedback principle application is very important, and using social capital or social connection, very, very crucial in this regard as a leader and as an organization. So framework in modern day communication. You all know that communication skills focus on how personnel in the public or in the workplace can develop approaches and strategies that will enable them to deal with communication problems in a variety of contexts. So every message from a person or the sender to the receiver must adopt approaches and strategies. You can have the information all right, but the skill of delivery may have problems. You may be deficient on the delivery aspect. You always need approaches and strategies on how to deliver so that it will be a problem-solving movement. It will be relational. It will be contextual within that particular moment. So one must always learn the skill of communicating. Communication is not an accidental thing. You must learn it. That's why everybody cannot be a good communicator. Not everybody can be a good communicator. That's why in every organization, there's a communication department or a PRO or customer satisfaction desk officer, whichever way you call it. The principle is that there are certain skillful people who are assigned to do that. If you go to the GES, there's a PRO there. You go to the Ghana Health Service, there's a PRO. If you go to even the presidential office, you have the chief of staff there. You have the minister for communication. If you go to every organization, you have the marketing department. So, depending on the type of organization, they naturally create a system that responds to internal communication and external communication. All is to promote a healthy environment, relationship building, and service improvement intervention. So one must always learn the skills of communicating. The field of communication is evolving, and one must always learn the latest way of doing it. So understand this simple diagram model, the linear communication model. Just understand it. It's so simple but very complex. If you understand the simplicity of it, in the complex situation, you will still be able to navigate it. In every organizational communication, in every workplace communication, in marketing, in development, in leadership, you always need 3 interventions to communicate effectively. That is, who is communicating the information? How is the information going to be communicated? And to whom the information is intended for? Any other thing is just adding to the process. Now, you remember when I was presenting, I was talking about data. So you, the sender, you must have adequate information through the generation of your data, through the analysis of your data that you have generated. And after generating the data, you should be able to know how will the information, which is now the final product, how will it be sent to those who need it. Sometimes it can be multiple ways of doing it. You can use radio and training of stakeholders, dissemination of messages. So you can use different approaches. You can use Facebook, you can use WhatsApp, you can use Instagram, you can use YouTube, you can do live presentation online, you can do what we are doing, like what we are doing now, Google Meet. You can use so many strategies because your data having analyzed, you know the information and who need it. So your target group will receive it in different forms. The channel will be used appropriately. Now, I want you to look at this diagram very well. Very, very well. Please. Very, very well. It is not everything you say that people hear you. So you always need to find out whether people have heard what you said. Now, if people heard what you said, you must find out whether they understood. Hearing is different from understanding. So if people heard you, ask them what is their understanding about what they heard through other means. So that's the feedback. Collecting feedback will help you to know that they heard what you said. Now, if you notice that they understood what you said, you will find out whether they agree to take action about what you have said, or what has been delivered, or the services that you have offered. If they agreed, what actions will they take? Have they taken any action? You must check to ensure that action has been taken. And if action has been taken, can this situation be repeated? So this will complete a whole full communication awareness diagram. Always confirm every step. If you see, find out. If you heard, find out whether they understood. If they understood, whether they agree to the information. If they agree to it, whether they have acted upon. If they have acted upon, what is the effect? If you don't, please note that you can deliver message without communicating. Communication is a complete, integrated response after delivery of the message. It is not delivery of a message without impact. So take note of this diagram. You can memorize this, and as a leader, anything you are doing, you are mindful and you are aware. Next. So I'm almost done. Some do's of effective communication. You may have read a lot about communication. I'm not saying they are not okay, but I want to tell you 7 things as a leader you must keep it in your pocket. 7 things that will make you very powerful in everything. As you were talking about my brother James Yacher delivery yesterday. Check and see what he said. You realize that they fall into this framework that I created. For effective communication by a communicator, you need to identify the issue, and that's what I told you, the data and the knowledge, the data and the knowledge. Now analyze that data to know the effect of the data. Now know your target group. After knowing your target group, then use the SMART principles. Use the information and go straight to the point. Be specific about each message. Make sure that the message is intended and can be measured to wherever it's going. Make sure that the message is culturally acceptable. Make sure that you are real. The research or the data is giving you realistic information. And make sure that it's delivered on time. If you analyze your data and you want to deliver to your audience, you must use the SMART principle. For every message, measure it with this and be sure. If it is not qualified, then you must enhance it. Then you can now use the tools that you want to apply to the multiple delivery of the message or communicating to the target group. You cannot be effective in communication if you don't have a budget line. So every organization must always make allocation of a budget line for communication and image enhancement. A lot of organizations make mistakes. The PR department is never funded, it's not supported, they are not doing any research, so they are obsolete, they are useless. They are not understanding the trend in the workplace and also within the environment they find themselves. And lastly, after every communication, you need to sit down and debrief. Debriefing means you are reorganizing. You are reorganizing to analyze what went well. I'm going to give you the format. What went well, what needs improvement, what are the things you need to do next time if you want to do that. And when you do this, then you can reuse this format again. It's cyclical. Anytime you use it, it will help you to improve, and then you can reuse it again. So everybody, a family man, a family woman, a manager, an entrepreneur, a government worker, a teacher, everybody needs to do this 7 process in order to become effective communicator. Now, how do you become an effective communicator in the private organization, in an organization of COVID, in organization of election year, in an organization of education, in an organization of agriculture, in an organization of fashion design, in an organization of service provision? You need to communicate differently. One, how do you communicate differently? You need to appreciate people. We need to understand the strength of people, the aspiration of people. So appreciative communication. Based on their previous knowledge, I know you know this, but I'm adding this to it. So you need to appreciate the target group before you communicate to them. Secondly, under communicating differently, you need to speak to data and science. Don't just talk carelessly. Don't talk without evidence. Every message that comes from you must be backed with evidence. Figurative expression, diagrammatic expression, references of people who have done similar things or who have said similar things. You need to relate well with people. You need to continuously develop a relationship. Above all, you, the one communicating, you have to be an instrument of change. You may have integrity. You must pass the test of integrity. You must be seen as a very respected person. A typical example is Otumfuo and others. Such people have branded themselves, they have related well with people, they have earned respect, they have created systems in that when they open their mouth, whatever comes from their mouth, you will have to act. You will have to receive it in good faith, and you mostly accept it as the true fact or the gospel fact. Today, communication is interactive, involving people. Interactive communication, not presentation, not just talking, not just writing press release and put it there and it has no connection. Not everybody can go to social media and read, but you must facilitate, you must meet face to face. You must use other media to see each other. You see, as I told you, psychological and sociological in the beginning of my presentation. You need to create that natural connections, and facilitation does it better. So that's the first thing you need to do if you want to become an effective communicator. You need to communicate differently from the traditional way of doing things. Then the second part of it that helps you as a communicator in a travel organization is to debrief all the time. Analyze every session after communication. And this is the guide. You ask this question and you answer them as a person or as a group. Say, what went well in our last press release or our last labor engagement with the Minister of Labor and Employment? What needs improvement? Next time, should we meet the minister? What are the areas that we need to improve on so that we can effectively communicate? What should we do differently in the future? What were some of the innovations identified? Maybe we didn't plan it, but during the meeting, something popped up which was very innovative and was able to supplement and complement what we were doing, and it made the thing very, very powerful. So what were the innovations we can identify? And the more you ask this question, you will always find the innovation. And what is the way forward for the future if you want to communicate similar situation, given the opportunity? So you can be an effective communicator in every given situation in a traveling organization if you communicate differently using appreciative communication, speaking to data and science, creating a relationship, using self as an instrument of change, and facilitating the process. You will be able to make great impact, and always do debriefing after communication so that you can learn and improve on the services. So apply innovation in communication simply means use most significant change stories. Anytime you are communicating, bring examples of what has been achieved, how it was achieved, and promise people or inspire people that this thing too can be achieved. So this is how you can apply innovation in communication. Use frameworks. Illustrate the outcome of what you are talking about. Do diagram. Design something. Make it catchy. For example, t-shirts with illustration. So when you wear the t-shirt with illustration, it gives a certain communication message. Use feedback mechanism. I already gave you the feedback principles. Use that. Use AI, artificial intelligence. Today, you can just Google and say that I want to meet the Minister of Education to discuss about the current educational curriculum. What are the areas I need to take into consideration? Google artificial intelligence will give you a very huge scope of areas you may consider to prepare your message and how you can even deliver it to. So artificial intelligence is the order of the day. If you are a teacher, if you are a trader, if you are a development person, and you are not applying the benefits of AI in communication, then you are lost. Use social capital to leverage impact of your communication. I told you, you need to develop yourself. You need to live in a life of integrity. You need to be liked by people so that your message can be acceptable. Or you use other people. But why do you use people when you cannot develop yourself? So it needs a lot of work. And let me give you a typical example of using the social capital. Honorable Kennedy at Japan, when he realized that he wanted to become a presidential candidate, he used to talk very harsh to people. But the moment he realized that he wanted to be a presidential candidate, for the last 1 year before he contested, he changed the way he was doing things. He started moving region by region, doing good to society, digging borehole for communities, providing a scholarship for people, doing a lot of things to build his social capital, sponsoring party members. So building social capital is very critical in delivering a message or communicating effectively to a particular group of people. So in a nutshell, I am giving you life-changing communication strategies or tools. You may have a lot of theoretical frameworks, but I'm giving you best practices of what I have been able to do, what I've been able to apply, and the benefits that I have gotten from my practices as a development person, as an academician, as an organizational development consultant, and as an effective communicator in my vocation or profession. I decided to share with you this brief. So collaborative communication is powerful. You cannot do it alone. You need to collaborate with others to help you do it better. It works like magic. Organization behavior change communication is driven by data. Full stop. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be with you and to share with you best practices in organizational behavior and communication skills. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
All right, let's hear from you, participant. Do you have any questions to ask Dr. Gabriel? All right, Mr. Yaganuma, your hand is up.
Thank you very much. I did like the presentation a great deal, but I would like them to throw a bit more light on how to build the social capital. I like the example he used using Kennedy Japan, but if you can, there are other strategies. How what's the way to harness that social capital and use it for what one really wants to achieve. I think that's where I need some bit more of clarification. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, building social capital takes time. That's one. It's not a Sakawa thing. It is something you intentionally build around you. So there are internal things you need to do, I'm going to tell you, and then outside thing you need to do, I will tell you. The internal thing you need to do is educate yourself. Read more about social capital building. Go to YouTube and download social capital. There are a lot of strategies on how to build your social capital. You can watch the videos and you can develop your own. Listen to people about who they think you are and develop them. For example, if they say you are a prolific writer, now look for strategy on how to improve on being a prolific writer. And James Yeacher has done it so well. He listened to people about his confidence, and so he goes here, he prepares very well, he uses the gift of effective communication to build a network there. The next day, he goes here and builds a network. A network upon network becomes bigger network. So you need to take feedback, develop yourself, educate yourself, and build your network. You need to do good to people and in communities. Join associations in your community and participate, offer what you are good at doing to them. They will bless you and you will go very far.
This is Mauricia Quintala speaking from Upper West, HR. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc, for your wonderful presentation this evening. Today we've heard of social capital and others. But in my, sometimes when you listen to some communicators, you hear people say building your human capital. And today he mentioned social capital. I don't know if the two are the same, whether they are talking about the same thing. I want some clarification on that.
They are not the same.
They are not the same.
They are not the same. The human capital is limited. The social capital is broader. Human capital development is just about your career. So you may be building your career without building your social capital.
In the course of presentation, mentioned that you can deliver a message without communication. That was when he was talking about communication awareness. I want him to explain a bit, because I know in communication, the speaker encodes a message for the person that is receiving. So if after you have delivered, is it that there is no receiver of the message, for which reason that you can say you can deliver a message without communication?
Yeah, when the channel is inappropriately used and when the target is inappropriately targeted, you can do the message all right, you can communicate all right, but there will not be any effect. That's why you need to do the first thing, data and knowledge. Data and knowledge. The data and knowledge will help you know the tools and the kinds of people with the different channels you need to use.
Thank you for the opportunity. Doc, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I'm looking at the communication awareness diagram. It is something I like very much, but I would like to throw more light on it as to how to apply it in communication. The communication awareness diagram, how do we apply it?
Yeah, you need to be aware that whatever you say, people must hear it. But if they hear it, do they understand it? If they understand it, do they agree to it? If they agree to it, have they acted? If they have acted, can you repeat it?
Please, Doc, when you mentioned the social capital, you also talked about being liked by people. I want to know whether the strategies for building social capital is the same can be applied to making yourself liked by people, or there are other strategies that makes one likable.
Like is metaphorically used. Metaphorically, it's not just people liking you, but what you are doing, it is helping people. So people like it, or they like you as a personality and the services that you offer. So it can be organization or it can be an individual.
I am done with the topic. I have given assignment and less than half of the class scored. That's my question.
Okay, so that's growth. It means that in the process, the tools you are using, you didn't check the communication awareness diagram. If they understood, did they agree on the process, how they can apply the knowledge? So you always, sometimes you need to take time, or sometimes you need to put them in a group. So in group, they can do group stimulation, and that can help them argue and come out with deeper understanding. So it all depends on the message that you want to give, or the assignment you are giving, whether it's overloaded. So you need to analyze to see whether you overloaded or something went wrong. But in the process, you need to be aware what you said. Did they hear you? If they heard you, did they understand